In the 20 years since first being introduced, there have been over 1,000 unique Marvel Legends action figures.
Heck, they've made over 30 of Captain America, Iron Man, and Wolverine each. But what about those more obscure characters? Those cats a little off the beaten path.
The ones that, when they made it into action figure form, made you say, "What the fuck?" Hey y'all, and welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics history and action figures. And we are going to count down the top 10 what the action figures in Marvel Legends history.
Don't get me wrong, these are some of the best figures ever made, as well as being amongst my favorites. But each of them is just odd enough that it makes you wonder, what were they thinking?
So without further ado, let's dive into our list.
Number 10. Let's go ahead and start with one of the big ones, Howard the Duck. The brainchild of writer Steve Gerber, Howard first appeared in 1973's Adventure into Fear 19. Gerber wrote the character as a satire, and he quickly graduated into his own title. While Howard's comic experience pushed all boundaries, he was constantly breaking the fourth wall, and Disney threatened to sue over his clear similarity to Donald Duck. It was in real, actual life that Howard made the biggest impact. Gerber sued Marvel, alleging that he was the sole owner of the character and was due revenue from licensing. Major comic creators came to his side, including King Jack Kirby, who produced Destroyer Duck, to help with Gerber's legal cost. Gerber eventually lost the case, but his battle paved the way for the creator-owned comics to come. Ol' Howard here appeared in the 5th series of Marvel Legends all the way back in 2003. He was packed in with the Silver Surfer because, well, why not?
This means he got a Marvel Legends figure before Hawkeye, Storm, and technically even Spider-Man.
But hey, don't feel bad. He made it to the big screen before this guy, this guy, this guy, or this guy. Number 9. Nico Minoru makes this list partly because she's fairly unknown to the world at large, but mostly because she doesn't have any of her friends with her in action figure form. Nico was created in 2003 by Brian K. Vaughan and Adrian Alfona in the first issue of The Runaways. Like her other teammates, Nico is the daughter of supervillains known as the Pride. Turns out, Nico has magic powers as well. Whenever she bleeds, the nigh-omnipotent Staff of One emerges from her chest, allowing her to bend magic. Following the traumatic betrayal that concluded the first series of Runaways comics, Nico assumed leadership of the group. Her Marvel Legend appeared in 2016's Dormammu Build-A-Figure wave, and because she just didn't have a home on my shelf, she ended up with my kids' toys, and I seem to have lost her staff. But hopefully Hasbro will come around and give us more of the original members of the Runaways. I know I'd love to see a deluxe figure of Gert with old lace, because we can always use more dinosaurs. Number 8. Let me see if I can explain the fever dream that is Ex Nihilo, the 2012 creation of writer Jonathan Hickman and artist Jeremy Opina. He is one of a robotic species called a gardener, whose mission is to accelerate evolution. He first came into contact with the Avengers when he terraformed Mars and then shot an origin bomb at Earth.
Fun fact, Jonathan Hickman and I attended Clemson University at the exact same time. But clearly, he took different classes than the ones that I did.
Ex Nihilo is on this list for a couple of reasons. The first is the most obvious. This character is insane. I mean, his powers include the ability to create life and to shoot fire from his mouth. He has absolutely no place in any display that I have set up. He certainly doesn't fit on an Avengers shelf, and I suppose he could go on my Cosmic shelf. I love the absolute gonzo creativity that Hickman brings to the comics medium, even if I can't always understand what's going on. But this action figure really makes you say, what the fuck? Number 7. There have been a bunch of characters that have called themselves Spider-Woman, but only one of them has ever gone by Spider-Bitch. Jeez, we are really getting our money's worth out of that bleep effect. Ashley Barton is the daughter of Hawkeye and the granddaughter of Peter Parker from the alternate future Old Man Logan storyline. She is a fully and completely irredeemable character. She was captured leading a revolt against the Kingpin, but after being freed by Logan and Hawkeye, instead of a polite thank you followed by a curtsy, she takes a shotgun handle and decapitates the Kingpin, thus becoming the new overlord of her territory. Her first order of business as the big boss? Ordering the death of her father.
What the f***? This is not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Girl.
Her figure came in 2016's Space Knight Venom Wave, a full year before Old Man Logan appeared in action figure form. Man, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of the pitch meeting that decided out of all of the characters in Spidey's universe, this was the one most deserving of an action figure. Number 6. Now, you knew Death's Head was going to show up on this list, but did you know that this figure is actually the second version of Death's Head to appear in Marvel Comics? The first Death's Head was initially published as a single-page strip to try to avoid ownership issues. The character then appeared in the UK Transformers comic. Death's Head 2 premiered in a Marvel UK limited series in 1992, holding the severed head of the original on the cover of his first issue. The success of the miniseries led to an ongoing title, but aside from a couple of background cameo appearances, he never really appeared outside of the Marvel UK imprint.
Which makes him a really, really odd choice for a mass-market action figure.
But it's hard to argue with how cool this thing looks. The details from the sculpt to the paint apps are top-notch, and from a purely action figure aesthetic, man, I really love this thing. Number 5. This green floating blob is Doop, from the minds of writer Peter Milligan and artist Mike Allred.
To really understand Doop, you have to get what was going on at Marvel in 2001. The company was bankrupt. There had been a change in editorial leadership, and no idea was considered too crazy. Plus, an influx of indie creators were brought in to bring some life to stale old titles.
One of these was X-Force. The book was reimagined with an entirely new team of mutants for the 21st century. They were as much reality TV stars as superheroes, far more interested in celebrity and all the trappings that came with it. Doop initially served as the cameraman. He recorded their actions and broadcast them to a hungry world. This included recording the slaughter of essentially the entire team in their first issue. But where Doop really went meta was that he was the most popular member of X-Force, and later Ecstatics. In the comics universe, Doop's merchandise was everywhere. Then that crossed over into our reality as well. Doop was packed in with another unconventional character, Deadpool, in Wave 6 of Marvel Legends, all the way back in 2004. With that, Doop had come full circle, from a WTF character to a WTF action figure. Number 4. What do you get when you cross Alice in Wonderland with a Playboy bunny? One of the most random villains in all of Marvel Legends, White Rabbit. First premiering in Marvel Team-Up 131 in 1983, Dr. Lorena Dodson was a proto-Harley Quinn, at first articulate and well-read, while at the same time being fully and ridiculously insane, beginning her career by robbing fast food joints. Fun fact, White Rabbit as a child was infatuated with Alice in Wonderland. Her fictional husband was named Lewis Dodson, a blend of Alice's author Lewis Carroll's pen name with his birth name of Charles Dodgson.
I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What's that make us?
Absolutely nothing.
For me, this figure represents the possibility of Marvel Legends. The fact that at this point, No character is too esoteric, too what the to be made. Number 3. Shaquilla is, much like White Rabbit, random enough to make this list on her own merit. But as the former bride of Deadpool, and now the current bride of Dracula himself, I'm gonna cut her some slack.
No, this spot on the list goes to her package mate, Jeff the baby Landshark.
That's right. Jeffrey, the first of his name of the former Staten Island, is just the kind of what the crazy to tickle our Marvel Legends fancy. No, he's not articulated, but he stole the heart of Gwenpool, and he was kinda sorta a member of the West Coast Avengers. Look, if there's anyone that epitomizes what this top 10 list is all about, it's Jeff the baby Landshark. Number 2. Now, before you knock the unbeatable Squirrel Girl, let's acknowledge that she was co-created by the one and only Steve Ditko, and she was a member of the Great Lakes Avengers, and she seemed to have a pretty hot affair with Wolverine. The fact that she got the deluxe treatment, including a scooter and multiple little furry rodent friends, is what places her this high on the list. But I think we all have to acknowledge that if the New Warriors TV show had ever seen the light of day, with Milana Weintraub in the role of Squirrel Girl, she not only wouldn't be on this list, she might just be the most popular character in the Marvel Universe. But it didn't, so we're just gonna have to enjoy this strange little piece of plastic and wonder. We've made it all the way to number 1. And in the top spot, the absolute pinnacle of Toy Biz's time on Marvel Legends, the Monsters box set from 2006. A little backstory. The publication of Frederick Wortham's Seduction of the Innocent destroyed the horror books, which had been so successful to that point, and led to the establishment of the Comics Code Authority. Stan Lee challenged the code with the famous drug issues of Amazing Spider-Man, published without code approval, leading to a relaxation of industry standards. Marvel jumped on this, first with Werewolf by Night, and quickly followed by Tomb of Dracula, Monster of Frankenstein, and Tales of the Zombie, amongst other similar horror titles. Tomb of Dracula was the standard bearer, lasting 70 issues behind the creative team of Marv Wolfman and artist Gene Colan. Werewolf by Night had the first crossover with Spider-Man in Marvel Team-Up issue 12, establishing the monsters as a part of the main Marvel universe. Frankenstein's comic started with a faithful 4-issue adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic novel, but the book quickly lost its way and was canceled unceremoniously with issue 18. And finally, Tales of the Zombie, still forbidden by the Comics Code, appeared in a black and white magazine intended for mature readers. The story was filled with graphic violence and a fair amount of nudity to boot. So hats off to Toy Biz for giving us the ultimate in what the Marvel Legends by digging into this remote corner of the Marvel Universe. If I sounded and looked a little funky in this video, that's because I created it while quarantined with COVID. So hook a brother up with a like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay up to date with all the good stuff coming from Carbon Scoring.